Thank you so much, Inksock. No problem. It's reassuring to have Rollo the Red with the Pacan. Just Rollo is fine, Inksock. Rollo the Red was just a name for the fighting pits, if that's what you want. These guys will show you to your new home. The massive Nar and her 2 cubs rose from their prostrations and meekly followed their guides out of the court. Shulk waited for them to disappear down the steps before releasing a tired sigh. I wanted to beat Rollo the Red, but now she's working for me. With most of the capable combatants in the city swept up by the great clans for their war against the undead in the west, the fighting pit business dried up. Rollo the Red, who had declined the clan's lucrative offer to join their forces because she was the single mother of 2 young cubs, ended up looking for work elsewhere, and that eventually landed her in front of Shulk. It was an odd turn of events, though hardly the only one in her increasingly complex life. Bring in the next petitioner, Shulk called out. She shifted uncomfortably on the hard seat of her stone throne. Someone had found the thing somewhere and had the humans fix it up. Then, she woke up one evening and found it plopped down in front of her family home. Wouldn't it be easier to just walk around talking to people instead of making them climb all the way up here? Strangely, she was the only one who seemed to think that. Everyone else thought it was expected for people to come to her. The next petitioner came up the stairs, the now familiar guildmaster of the Pacan's local merchant guild branch. He still wore the same uniform that she had first seen him wearing in the Draconic Kingdom, which was somehow kept spotless and undamaged. Inksock, Master Leeds genuflected before her. We've noted the rise of some undesirable behavior over the past week or so. Unknown individuals have been sweating our coins. A vague mental image formed in Shulk's mind that didn't make much sense. What does that mean? She asked. Oh, basically, you take some coins, stick them in a bag, and violently shake them around. The coins are damaged from hitting one another and the debris is collected from the bottom of the bag. Why would anyone do that? The fragment set up, Master Leeds shrugged. They are basically extracting copper from our coins. We've gotten a few dozen bags of refined copper bits from our ore suppliers. Apparently, these people are smart enough not to come to us directly with their ill-gotten gains, but not smart enough to realize that we'd figure out what they're up to. We've also noted evidence of clipping, shaving the edges off of coins, and we've even received pieces of wholly destroyed coins. In hindsight, it was inevitable. Our minting activities have created a market for copper, and the alloy mix used by the Merchant Guild is adjusted for more advanced economies. Here, the price of refined copper is worth more than its weight in coinage. The people here are either desperate or clever enough, or both, to turn the debasement of currency into an industry. That's bad, isn't it? How do you fix that? Well, since we're the largest dealers in currency, we can have our merchants reject any debased coinage. Also, we can set a scrap price that makes debasing coins not worth the effort. In time, the old prices for everything will adjust to the intrinsic value of the coins. But what if someone got a damaged coin from someone else thinking it was still good? Doesn't that hurt them? We could set a grace period while everything sorts itself out. That's a cost the clan would have to shoulder, though. Is it a lot? That depends. We don't know how widespread the problem is, but it will worsen if we let it drag on. People must learn to respect the rules. Then I guess we don't have much of a choice. Go ahead and do what you said. By your command, Inksock. The guildmaster lowered his head and left the court. She still didn't understand how money worked yet, but it seemed to be as convenient as Soraka and the humans said it would be. Now that they had established a few trade routes to import copper-bearing ores, the humans worked endlessly to mint new coins. They were still far from the point where there was enough for the entire city, but the use of coins had already replaced about a third of all barter in the area around her home. Her next petitioner was Potley, one of the clan elders. The mystic walked up to the base of her throne with a pair of his assistants. Hey, Potley, Shulk said as she kneaded her claws on her stone seat. Inksock, Potley said. Velazar continues unabated. I saw, Shulk replied, our river looks more like a lake now. The deluge has been over for a month, so why are the water levels still rising? We took the time to consult with the other mystics around the city, but the only consensus we could come to was that we aren't the problem. The upstream water levels of the local rivers are as expected for the season, as is the depth of the lake behind our dam. The cause of the flooding lies elsewhere in the basin. Perhaps Vultava has some idea about what's going on? He and the others went to explore the area south of the city, Shawk told him. They didn't say when they would be back, but they were only gone for about 2 weeks last time. Have you tried speaking to visiting merchants? They could have some information about how the rest of Roland Gork is doing. I hadn't considered that, Inksock. I'll send some people to ask around. Hopefully they can learn something, Shawk said. How are our new fungus farms coming along? Will we be able to provide enough food for our people? The unexpected flooding brought with it many woes. Not only were people being driven further up and out of the lowlands, but the herds were still grazing in their winter ranges. The hills around Khostorfi, which included her clan's territory, were left relatively unscathed by the problem, but security became more and more of an issue as the population fleeing the lowlands sought refuge wherever they could. To add to her worries, the Merchant Guild was recommending that her clan stockpile provisions in anticipation of price fluctuations caused by the flooding. Now, she worried that the people of the city would be driven to madness by hunger and would start eating one another. We are working as quickly as we can, Potley replied. Expanding the fungus farms is easy enough, but the herds are another issue. The best way to increase production is to allow the nug population to grow, which means we would have to import most of our food in the interim. Slowing down the growth of the clan will also help. I'll talk to the guildmaster about importing more food, Shawk said, but I don't think we can stop taking people in. We have nowhere near enough strength to defend our holdings if the city goes crazy. The hope that they might be able to join us is making people behave, too. Then it is what it is, Potley said. We will do what we can. Shawk nodded in agreement and the elder went on his way. Is there anyone else? Shawk asked. At the top of the stairs, one of her guards looked over his shoulder and held up a paw. 5 petitioners. Why did I even ask? She had been stuck at 5 for most of the morning. Whenever she finished dealing with one, another would join the back of the line. Admittedly, it was a small victory that she could have people form lines at all. She fully expected the Nar and Irma petitioners to walk over everyone else, but it looked like her security was substantial enough to keep things in order. Shawk reached for the jug of water by her throne and took a long draught before calling the next petitioner in. A Lup's head appeared at the top of the steps, but then she was bowled over by an officious-looking Irma with a well-groomed coat. So much for keeping things in order. Shawk grew nervous as the newcomer sauntered towards her with a prideful air. Hear the words of the Confederation Council, she roared. Do you have to shout? Shawk cringed. I'm sitting right here, you know. Every tribe of Roland Gork is to provide 10 able warriors or hunters. The messenger's voice continued to boom away. Every clan, 100. They are to assemble at the city docks. The city docks are underwater, Shawk noted. In a day hence. There will be no exceptions. Shawk followed the messenger with a confounded stare as she refused to elaborate any further and left. But the city doesn't have any clans or tribes, she flicked an ear in annoyance. And what's a hence? Had her people been singled out because they had sort of reformed their clan? What was she going to do? She had a token security force with next to no training and she doubted that the council would deem them acceptable warriors. I never asked for any of this. Why can't people just leave us in peace? Did lords just have problems dumped on them as a matter of course? Whenever she solved one, 3 more would pop up. Stop bringing in new petitioners, she said. I'm going to take a walk around the clanhold. Oh, I'll still finish the ones that have been waiting. The last few petitioners fortunately didn't add any further complications. After fighting off the temptation of a midday nap, she descended the stairs to the second highest terrace of her clanhold where the humans imported from the Draconic Kingdom lived. It hadn't been long, but they had already transformed the place into something almost unrecognizable from the ruin it once was. Was this really how things used to be? The humans offered to restore her clanhold to its original appearance, but she couldn't figure out how they could know what that looked like. Still, she had to admit it was better than before. The crumbling stone buildings were slowly being replaced by new ones and the old roads were dug up and remade. They fixed the drainage systems and even the ball courts whenever their progress brought them across one. Inksock. 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 Shawk bobbed her head in response to an endless stream of greetings as she made her way to the clanhold's market. She wished that everyone would just address her as they used to. Her greatest fear was that people would start calling her real Inksock one day and her workload would magically increase tenfold. She wasn't even officially recognized as a lord yet. "Inksock, how may I help you?" Master Leeds greeted her at the entrance of the Merchant Guild, which had gone from a small tent to a two-story structure built out of blocks of basalt. The ground level had enough room for a reception area and even a private office. Did you hear that Irma shouting just now?" "I don't think so," Master Leeds replied. "It's pretty noisy in the market these days." "What did they say?" "She was a messenger from the Confederation Council. They want us to supply them with warriors or hunters." The guildmaster frowned. Shawk was fairly sure it was the same as a beastman's frown, but it was hard to tell how strong the reaction was since he didn't have a tail. "For what? Didn't they just assemble a huge army during the deluge?" he said. "What do they want people for now?" "She didn't say," Shawk replied. "She announced that we were to deliver them to the docks, which are underwater at the moment." Master Leeds made a sort of half chuff. "They'd have much better luck bothering the other 99% of the city," he said. "They'll fill their quota 1,000 times over with how many people are being forced out of their homes by the flooding." "It doesn't work that way," Shawk told him. "The quota demands warriors and hunters of at least a certain quality. Every adult member of each race needs about the same amount of food and space, so recruiting warriors is about getting the most power per person. Very few people in the city qualify as warriors and hunters in the eyes of the warrior clans, especially with them taking away so many recently." "I suppose that makes sense," Master Leeds said. "You people eat an absurd amount. Especially the Nar and the Irma. So, we can't afford their demands. What's going to happen to us?" "I don't know," Shawk admitted. "I don't even know why that herald came to us. She walked right over the petitioners and left just as quickly, so the council might have just sent people everywhere saying the same thing." Now that she thought about it, the way that the announcement was structured sounded like it was meant for the territories, not the cities. The warrior clans thought little of the cities in the first place, so they may not have even prepared a separate message for them. Did that mean it was safe to ignore the council? It sounded like they were already short of people with everything that was going on, so she couldn't imagine they had the people to enforce their demands. Even if they came, she could argue that they weren't yet an officially recognized clan. "Anyway," Shawk continued, "they are going to try and collect people tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. What else did I come here for? Oh, yeah, Potley advised us to begin importing food to let our herds grow in line with our fungus farms. Are we able to do that?" "I'm tempted to say yes," Master Leeds said. "This new announcement might change things, though. If they're putting another big army together for something, I recommend that we import as much as we can as quickly as possible to get in ahead of the impact this might have on the market." "Please do," Shawk said. "Let Potley know how much food you can provide through trade so he can tell the ranchers how to proceed." "One last thing," the guildmaster said. "Will you still be letting people into the clan? This plan is only possible because our population is relatively small. As long as this flooding keeps up, I can't guarantee that we'll be able to import any food at all as the weeks go on." "I know," Shawk's tail went limp. "I don't like it, but we may have to shut out all but the most promising warrior candidates." Not liking it was putting it lightly. The very idea made her feel like an absolute villain. She took on the responsibilities of a lord because she wanted to help her people, not pick and choose who would starve and how to ensure that they did. "Are you sure Rolengork doesn't have any other avenues for trade?" Master Leeds asked. "I'm pretty sure there aren't," Shawk answered. "Everyone to the north wants to kill us and eat us. Everyone to the east wants to kill us and eat us and take our land. The west, well, they're fighting to drive back the undead. The southern tribes have some trade with the Great Loot, but there's no food going in either direction there." After returning from the Draconic Kingdom, she learned many bits and pieces of information about Rolengork in her efforts to establish her clan. Most of it was simple, but there was a whole lot of it. Combined with her visit to the Draconic Kingdom with Soraka's entourage and what she had learned from them, the world she had once known felt like it had grown very small. "This is going to be rough," Master Leeds scratched his cheek, "but we'll do what we can. If we had just one more season to build out our trade network, this would have been 10 times easier." "Will you need more security for our merchants?" "That will depend on what they report on their return. The good thing about the river trade is that it's big and fast, so we won't have to wait long to find out." It may be prudent to conceal the fact that we were stockpiling supplies, however. Our stuff should be safe short of a major attack, Shulk said, but let our warriors know what you need. If the flooding kept getting worse, it would be impossible to steal those supplies without storming the clan hold. Not long after the humans started working, they converted the Kuroko's cliffs into a warehouse complex, making their inventories inaccessible without a ship or access to the terraces above. Her next stop was the cliffs in question, which had the top 5 meters of stone stripped away by her clan's combination of quarrying and reconstruction efforts. The stone-working industry had become the largest single employer in the area, with over 400 beastmen from her tribe working under the direction of the humans. They had carved the hill much as an artisan might carve a piece of wood, leaving buildings and infrastructure in their wake. Along the way, she stopped at several of the renovated bull courts, which were now training fields for the clan's warriors. 9 out of 10 were Osalo, though that ratio was changing by the day as she brought in more muscle. At one of the courts, she found Rollo watching the warriors train from the sidelines. "How do you like your new home?" Shulk asked. "It's amazing, Inksok," Rollo answered, her tail swishing back and forth in a pleased manner. Our last den was a few nug hides stretched between the roots of a tree. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we would get to live in a cave. "It's a house," Shulk said. "At least it's what the humans call a house." "Is that so? I've never seen a human before today, but they seem handy. How do the fighting pits here work?" Shulk looked at the ball court below them. She supposed it did resemble a fighting pit for those who didn't know any better. "This isn't a fighting pit," Shulk said. "It's a ball court, but it's currently being used as a training ground for warriors." "But didn't you say that you needed warriors for security?" "I do, but poorly trained warriors aren't much better than any other citizen. Our warriors alternate in their duties, one day as training, and the other as maintaining order and security in the clan's holdings. This is your job from now on." "So I'll be working every day? I won't have to find odd jobs to make ends meet?" "You are a professional warrior, now," Shulk told her. "You learn enough to meet the needs of your family just from that." "I see. It's as if I joined a warrior clan. In that case, I should get to work." Rollo turned and went to join the other warriors in training. Not long ago, Shulk would have feared she might break someone in half, but she seemed like a much more reasonable person outside of the fighting pits. Once Shulk reached the cliffs overlooking the river, which now had a sturdy walkway installed, walking down the ramp to the water. The submerged planks of the wharf showed clearly in the sunlight, and a marked pole fastened to one of the pilings showed that the water level had risen another centimeter since she had checked that same morning. On the opposite shore, things were much worse. The river had crept far into the trees, leaving a landscape of half-submerged dwellings and trunks sticking out of the water. She imagined that the other valleys of the city wouldn't be faring much better, and the slums along the docks were probably underwater as well. As the city had no formal, unified leadership, its displaced citizens simply moved wherever they could. Rumor had it that new tribes were forming for security and influence, though she hadn't caught wind of anything on the scale of her clan. A pair of paddle boats with her clan's markings they were improvised, rounded the bend down river. The captain of the lead vessel, a black-furred Gao named Loris, wagged his tail as his ship closed with its berth. "Inksok," the Gao called out, "I thought you came down to welcome us home, but maybe not. It looks like the troubles from upriver have come to us." "How troubling are these troubles?" Shulk asked. "Very troubling indeed," the Gao answered gravely. "The crews I've spoken with claim that the river only continues to swell." "I'll hear what everyone has to say once the cargo is offloaded," Shulk said. "An afternoon meal will be waiting for you up in the court once you're done here." She went back up the ramp, squeezing past the dock workers making their way down to the waterfront. The crews from the merchant ships arrived at the court 30 minutes later, letting out sighs of relief and expressions of hunger as they sat around mats where platters of fish were being served. "No need to hold back," Shulk gestured with a paw. "We have many questions that need answering." After the clan elders, master leads, and the merchant guild office staff appeared and sat down at a set of long stone tables below her throne, Shulk stepped down from her throne on the stairs so she could speak more closely to the returnees. "Things in Khorstorofikar are steadily getting worse," she told them. "Is there any news from upriver about the cause of this flooding?" "Everyone says it's Vila's wrath," Loros said to the nods of many others, but they do not say which clan it is that has brought it upon Roland Gork. Is it still raining up there or something? Not that any of us could see, Loris replied, but we only went as far as higher or lower, 100 kilometers upriver. The lowlands were flooded everywhere we looked, and most of the villages and towns along the river have been abandoned. Higher itself is half underwater. What about public order? Shawk asked. Is it still safe for our merchants? How are the clans up there reacting to this? Loris' lips pulled back, revealing his fangs as he let out a low growl. It is the same as always, he said with a snap of his teeth. We of the cities are beneath them. If they have any information, they are unwilling to share. That's insane, Master Lead said. Everyone is obviously in trouble. What's the point of keeping secrets? It is the way of things, one of the elders said. There are two types of trouble in Roland Gork, the sort one can fight, and the sort no one can do anything about. The people of the cities can do nothing about either in the eyes of the warrior clans. Thus, we are not worth consulting. At least until they're desperate for bodies, Shawk muttered. Speaking of which, did you come across any heralds or criers calling for more warriors? Yes, we did, Lobos replied. It wasn't the usual message, either. Did they say where the warriors were being sent? No, just that they were to assemble for transport. Shawk turned away with a flick of her ear, not quite able to suppress her annoyance. The warrior clan's behavior was considered customary in Roland Gork, but now that she had a clan to take care of, what was once normal had become a source of perpetual frustration. This was doubly so since the clan lords that she had the opportunity to speak to back when they were recruiting forces to fight the undead didn't put on any of the same airs as their heralds. Maybe we can puzzle things out another way, Master Lead said. How are the markets looking? Any commodities pricing strangely? Yeah, a human merchant sitting near Lobos reached into a bag beside him to produce some paper. Jute is going up. So is salt. Certain ores are rising, likely because of us. Animal products, meat, bone, ivory, hides, are going down. Everything else is within range of our expectations. Meat is going down? The guildmaster furrowed his brow. Any idea what that's about? No clue. We had a sample brought back to the ships and the cooks said there wasn't anything wrong with it, so we loaded up on as much of the stuff as we could. Not the same meat, the man beside him said, the smoked goods. Oh yeah, a lot of what they were selling was raw. Couldn't take that, obviously. Master Leeds rubbed his jaw, penning something out with his free hand. Salt prices have gone up, so a shortage of salt? How much raw meat was there in the market? A lot. The merchants at the market even told our agents that there was even more on the way. Of course, the locals were ecstatic. This doesn't make any sense, Master Leeds crossed his arms. Even if salt gets a bit expensive, it's a waste not to cure all of that meat. Could be that there's too much raw meat for the local industries to handle. Also, more than a few probably lost their work areas to the flooding. Shawk turned her attention to the elders, who had been quietly discussing the information between themselves. Have you figured out something? She asked them. In our recollection, Potley answered, the cause can only be a few things. Disease, starvation, war, all of these lead to livestock being prematurely culled by ranchers to make the herds more manageable and easier to defend. Oh no, Shawk's tail curled between her legs. Their winter ranges are overgrazed and the summer ranges are flooded. That's the logical conclusion, Potley said. They are trying to save their herds from perishing entirely. This unprecedented feast will be short-lived. An unsettled silence fell upon the courtyard at the elders' statement. Shawk looked back and forth between the elders and Master Leeds before releasing a long sigh. Then we should proceed with what we talked about, Shawk said. We need to bring in as much preserved meat as possible. Meat and hides. Meat should be simple enough, Master Leeds said. Local consumers will favor the cheap raw meat being liquidated, so the preserved meat should be ours for the taking. But why hides? Because Roland Gork is going to starve, Shawk replied. And our warriors are going to need armor. Well, the road wasn't like this before. On the southern outskirts of Khorstorofi-Keral, Ilishnish and her companions stood on an orange clay road abruptly cut short by a small lake. The road re-emerged on the opposite shore roughly 100 meters away. On either side, a small crowd of beastmen stood about as they waited for a pair of boats that were ferrying people and their cargo back and forth. Should we swim? Pebble asked. I'm not sure that's such a good idea, Elishnish said. This river is connected to that lake. While she was swimming around exploring the large lake off the shores of Kostorofikeral, she encountered several fish that were as large as her dragon self. Despite them not being big enough to swallow her whole, they tried nonetheless. They wouldn't have any problem swallowing her as she was now. Let's walk upstream, Elishnish said. By the looks of it, we won't need to go more than a few kilometers before it can be crossed normally. Vltava hopped off of her shoulder as they went, occasionally stopping to sniff at the ground and investigate the flooded terrain. What was once a sprawl of humble homes had turned into piles of debris washing up on the rising shores. This would explain why the clans south of here had so many hunters patrolling their territory, Pebble said. They must have suffered many incursions since we left the city. The young Overlord has a great trial ahead of her, Pinecone agreed. Many millions dwell in the lowlands. This flooding is unnatural, Vltava bleated. The valley tells no tales of a time when the waters rose to this extent. Maybe an earthquake changed the course of the river, Elishnish offered. Or a glacial lake in the Waldspine Mountains was unleashed. If so, Vltava said, it must have happened far away. The effects of the flooding here are too gradual. They found a shallow ford 3 kilometers upstream and crossed straight into one of the wealthier areas of the city. The residents that she spotted, however, were decidedly not wealthy going by their appearance. Elishnish grew nervous as several started stalking her steps. When the group of stalkers grew into a small crowd, a line of beastmen came to bar her path. Stop right there. A grey-furred lup called out. Elishnish stopped. Vltava didn't. She scooped him up into her paws before he could start obliterating their surroundings. Yes? She replied, what can we do for you? I've never seen your kind before, the lup said. What are you doing here in our city? We are returning from a trip to the south, Elishnish replied. We departed from this city not 2 weeks ago. They are outsiders who've angered Vila. An unseen speaker cried. You fool. Someone else said, they left when the flooding started. Clearly, we must keep them in the city to appease the lake god. The crowd divided itself into 3 sides, one that wanted to drive them away, one that wanted to imprison them, and one that simply watched. Elishnish pondered her options, but she had never been in a similar situation before. If you wish to have your way, Vltava said, you must first defeat us. Elishnish clapped a paw over the murder sheep's maw. What did he say? Nothing. Elishnish replied, can we go, now? Ow. Crushing pain exploded from one of her fingers. Vltava dropped to the ground and immediately charged the lup, blocking their way. Run. Elishnish cried, save yourselves. Huh? What are you? The 2.5-meter tall lup was sent flying by Vltava's headbutt. The fluffy little avatar of violence knocked down 5 more beastmen before the others started to flee. A few moments later, Vltava disappeared behind a huge tree trunk, his teeth clamped onto Anar's tail. Are the people here really that stupid? Elishnish shook her head sadly. Who in their right mind would anger such a dangerous creature? She walked under branches weighed down with terrified beastmen as she looked for Vltava. Eventually, she found him in front of the largest estate, sniffing around its yard. Several up fearfully peeked at him from between the blinds of the building's windows. What in the world are you doing? Elishnish asked. Vltava hopped back onto her shoulder. These dwellings no longer house their lords, he said. I could have told you that, Elishnish replied as she led them north out of the grove. The lords here don't rule the city, they just lord over it. They've probably gone home with all the problems piling up in Rolangork. Much like the human lords of the Sorceress Kingdom and the Empire, the lords of Rolangork only came to the capital to attend to their own business, playing politics, conducting trade deals with other clans, and making sure they looked important while doing it. Now that there seemed to be more trouble in the city than their business was worth, they had prudently withdrawn to their respective seats of power around the jungle basin. That's what she would do, at any rate. Most beings were no different in her recollection. If things became unsafe, one retreated to the safety of their home. As they made their way through the city, they skirted the glades and clanholds formerly occupied by the elites of Rolangork. It seemed like all of them had been taken over by citizens displaced by the flooding. Much like the first they had gone through, the organization of each population was at best a collective security arrangement. They had nothing but raw numbers, but that was effective enough if everyone was in the same situation. I wonder if more lords like Shulk will show up, Pebble said. This city is rapidly splitting up into new tribes. They will begin fighting over herds and grazing areas soon, Pinecone said. The resulting trials may very well give rise to new leaders. Ilishnish watched a set of Gao ranchers escort a small herd of Nug through the trees. There were more ranchers than usual and each one seemed to be warier than they needed to be. "Hello," she called out to them, "there are as many ranchers as Nug here. What's going on?" The ranchers froze at the sound of her voice. A set of distrustful growls filled the air. She wondered if they would have chased her off if she wasn't so much larger than they. After several moments, one of the ranchers stepped forward to reply. "What's it to you?" she asked. "We were just in the city 2 weeks ago," Ilishnish answered. "Much seems to have changed." "The slums got flooded," the rancher replied. "People are wandering all over the place. Last week, our neighbors were raided. Lost 5 of their animals." "Raided?" Ilishnish twitched her tail curiously. "Do you mean to say that your fellow citizens are stealing from you?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. If you don't have herds and the ranges for them, it's best that you leave the city. Everything's going to shit." Ilishnish thanked the ranchers for their time and they continued on their way. She couldn't help but notice that many of the people tending to their animals seemed to have hired the biggest, meanest-looking help possible. "So it has already begun," Veltava said. "What has?" Ilishnish asked. "Their society is disintegrating," Veltava said. "Each race is reverting to their respective natures. The Gao and Lup instinctively form packs while the other races exhibit the mostly solitary behavior of their kind. That is why you now see Gao and Lup occupying the places of power with only the occasional Naranoma to help defend their new territory." "Are you sure it's going to disintegrate?" "It isn't a guarantee," Pinecone said. "But the population is clearly stressed. Our own society is in no small part structured as it is due to this. Short of complete extinction, the Konos can weather any calamity." She flicked her ear in agreement. It only made sense. Her father had tried to build a new society for his brood and the ultimate result was that the Sorcerer King subjugated them in one fell swoop. If they had kept to their nature, it wouldn't have happened so easily. A few might have been caught, but the rest would have fled across the ocean. They eventually arrived at the Kuroko's cliffs, where Osalopakan was, for better or worse, not disintegrating. If anything, they had made steady progress with growth and development since she last saw them. After ascending the clan hold, they found Shulk hosting a meal in the court with a mix of beastmen and humans. The young Overlord turned to greet them with a wave of her paw. "Winter Moon," she said. "Welcome back. How are things in the south?" "Things? You know, is it anything like what you saw coming into Kostorafikeral?" "You'll have to be more specific." As a frost dragon, she disliked it when people were vague. It always sent her mind spinning into a wasteful mental exercise as she tried to figure out what they meant based on every conversation that she ever had in the past. "The flooding, for instance." "A bit," Ilishnish replied. "Rising water levels are having the same effect in the lower valleys, but the settlements out there don't have anywhere near the population of Kostorafikeral. They're managed by the clans, as well. If anything, what's going on here is far more interesting. Speaking of which, why haven't you disintegrated yet?" Shulk's ears went straight into the air. "What?" "From what I saw," Ilishnish told her, "public order in the city is in shambles. I didn't see many merchants and the markets were subdued. You seem to be faring much better." "Thanks, I guess. We've been working non-stop to build everything up and keep it safe. Is it really that bad out there?" "Shouldn't you know better than me? I've been away for nearly 2 weeks. I'm so busy that I haven't been able to leave the clan hold at all," Shulk whined. "There are plenty of rumors going around, of course, but you make things sound far worse." "Perhaps it's because Winter Moon can only compare it to the last time she was here," Elder Potley offered. "We, on the other hand, have been monitoring the small changes that happen from day to day. How does the city appear to you, Winter Moon? You mentioned poor public order. Is there any danger that might threaten us?" Ilishnish considered the elder's question. The new tribes that were forming were barely organized and Shulk's clan hold was highly defensible by terrestrial standards, especially now that the river separating them from the rest of the city was nearly a kilometer wide. The Gowanlup are forming large packs, Ilishnish said. They've taken over the groves and clanholds of the wealthy, which have been abandoned by their former occupants. Some ranchers I spoke with on the way here claim that the citizens are raiding their livestock. Shork's ears flattened and her tail curled between her legs. Low discussion rose between the beastmen and humans gathered for the meal. There must be a better way to do this, the Overlord said. Didn't I say you seem to be doing well? It's not enough. Shork moaned. Maybe we can save ourselves, but what about everyone else? This flooding is happening all across the basin. If the Confederation collapses, our enemies will invade and eat us. Not to trample on your concern, Pebble said, but this event is the result of how Rolengork built itself. If anything, you are fortunate that a disaster of some kind hasn't already overturned your civilization. If you intend to return things to how they once were, this tragedy will only repeat itself. But I don't want to watch everyone die. Pebble sat on her haunches and curled her long, fluffy tail around her feet. I never demanded that you do, she said. Your actions are yours to take. I was merely pointing out the challenges that you will face should you choose to act to save your fellows. Shork settled back down and went to her seat, looking thoroughly miserable. At the table below her, Master Leeds cleared his throat. I don't see what's so hard about this, he said. The way things are going, Lady Shork could carve out a new kingdom if she wanted to. Hell, the Confederation could become a new empire if we play things right. What do you mean? Shork asked. You want to do something about the situation, Master Leeds said, but you're looking at things the wrong way. You see a wall of problems that are getting too big, too fast. It's natural to think that things are overwhelmingly hopeless if you only consider everything in those terms. Instead, we should consider our advantages and how we can attack our problems with them. The Guildmaster winced as he uncrooked his legs and rose from his seat. Ilishnish wondered how long the meeting had been going on for. Now, he said, this is just from our observations since we arrived in Rolengork, so feel free to correct me if you think something's wrong. The Confederation is a huge, unwieldy place where customs don't change much and innovation is pretty rare. Politically speaking, each clan and tribe only really police their respective territories with the exception of the whole Confederation banding together for security against external threats. It is what would be considered a pastoral economy where the vast majority of trade revolves around Nug. Don't get me wrong, the Nug trade is huge in Rolengork because Rolengork itself is similarly huge, but we estimate that everything outside of the Nug industry makes up around 5% of the Confederation's trade. If you break the numbers down even further, timber and jute production make up most of that 5% while mining is a fraction of the remainder. How did you figure that out? Shork asked. We're merchants, Master Leeds shrugged. The market information that we've compiled, combined with what we've seen the people, warriors and civilians alike, work with gives us a pretty good idea of the overall economic situation. Obviously, trade is what we're the most interested in and it's through trade that we may be able to drastically improve the circumstances of the city and its surroundings. I hope I can understand what you want to do. Master Leeds grinned at Shork's wary response. The basic ideas should be easy to understand, he said. The hard part is making all of the moving pieces work. Fortunately, we're already well on our way to having that covered. As far as we've discussed today, the central issue we're facing is that the flooding is preventing ranchers all across Rolengork from accessing their summer pastures. A food shortage for the Nug eventually becomes a food shortage for the beastmen. Does everyone follow so far? Shork and the elders nodded. In response, the Guildmaster continued, you've ordered us to import as much food as possible to prepare for the impending famine. This sort of defensive thinking is pretty common. People identify a problem and turn to the most readily apparent solution. Are you saying that it's the wrong decision? Shork asked. It is a solution, Master Leeds answered, but it's not the best solution that we have at our disposal. Elder Potley also requested that we import food so that our Nug herds could grow to keep up with the expanding fungus farms. Yeah, Shork said, that's what convinced me to issue the order to import as much food as we can. And that's where we screwed up. We screwed up? You just issued the order, the Guildmaster said, so it's a mistake easily remedied. Here's what we should actually be doing, we export fodder, trading it for preserved meat and animals to add to our herds. Master Leeds grinned at the beastmen's dumbfounded silence. We can do that? Shork raised her tail in the air. So long as the other side's willing to take the trade, the guildmaster said. And I wager that they will. They're culling their herds faster than they can preserve meat, after all. This trade is just the beginning, though. With it, we have the last cornerstone we need to build something big. The guildmaster bent forward to pick up a piece of parchment on the mat in front of him. First is the expansion of the fungus farms, he said. Elder Potley's work is limited by labor. We use the meat that we trade for to bring in more labor from the city. Those blood antlers make for one of the craziest crops I've ever seen or heard about. They take a mere 2 weeks from spawn to harvest. That's an industry just waiting to explode. The more blood antlers we grow, the more nug we can trade for, and the more people we can bring in to become anything we need them to be. This crisis is, in reality, an opportunity of unprecedented proportions. Will it be so simple? Elder Potley asked. I don't see why it shouldn't be, Master Leeds answered. You yourself mentioned that the fungus farms are easy to set up. On top of that, setting up the fungus farms creates housing for Osalo and anyone else who doesn't mind living in the trees. We're growing food by building housing which houses labor that allows us to grow more food. But what about government? Shawk asked. I'm already at my limit managing the clan as it is. Clans are composed of tribes, aren't they? The guildmaster said. Human lords delegate responsibility to their vassals and magistrates. Guildmasters have office staff. You're trying to do everything on your own so far and that's not good. That's because I'm still learning, Shawk said. How can I teach other people what to do if I don't know how to do it myself? For one, collecting and sorting out information is the bulk of your work. That's not something that specifically requires your direct involvement. You have the clan elders to help you out in court, too. As the lord of the clan, your time should be dedicated to making decisions for the betterment of the clan. Trying to do everything yourself will hurt everyone in the long run because it keeps you from doing what you need to do. Ilishnish stifled a yawn. Dragons naturally knew that. That's why they had minions. That makes sense, I think, Shawk said, then turned to the clan elders. What do you think? I still have my doubts about whether we can grow as quickly as Master Leeds suggests, Elder Potley said, but the more people we can save, the better. As for organizing the clan into tribes, we needed to do it sooner or later anyway. I can only hope that we don't get into trouble with the Confederation Council for this ambitious undertaking. As I mentioned at the beginning of my proposal, Master Leeds said, the clans don't really project power beyond their own territories. They certainly don't help manage the city. With what that messenger stated earlier today, in addition to all of the problems that have cropped up, they're probably so short-handed that they couldn't do anything about us even if they knew. What did the messenger say? Ilishnish asked. They're trying to gather more warriors and hunters for something, Shawk answered. Going by what they told us to do, I'm not even sure if the clans even care about what's happening in the city. Further proof that we're free to act, Mr. Leeds said. I doubt the clans will come and save us if things fall apart, so it'd be foolish to wait on their approval or recognition for anything. Voices of agreement started to rise from around the court. Shawk, who always seemed hesitant about everything, finally acquiesced. The next day, Ilishnish was sorting out a few belongings that she had picked up on their trip to the south when Shawk appeared at the entrance to her room. Winter Moon, she said. Could you come with us into the city? I don't mind, Ilishnish replied, but why? According to the messenger yesterday, someone from the council will be picking up the warriors that they wanted. Ilishnish looked up from her collection of items, peering suspiciously at the Osalo in the doorway. You're not shipping me off somewhere, are you? Huh? No, of course not. I just wanted some knowledgeable people to come with me to see if they could make any sense of what the council wants. Oh. All right. She swept up her things with a paw and dropped them back into her infinite haversack before following Shawk outside. Vltava hopped onto Ilishnish's shoulder as soon as she stepped into the open air of the courtyard. A few of the clan elders and an Osalo male named Kaimali joined them as they made their way down to the river and took a boat to the opposite shore. What do you expect will happen? Ilishnish asked Shawk. I'm not sure, Shawk replied. Kaimali said it'll be like when they came to get people to fight the undead. There's no other way, Kaimali said. The shores will be filled with people who see the council's announcement as an opportunity to secure their daily meals. But that means people from the warrior clans will be here to test them. Shawk's tail hung nervously. If they find out what we're doing and don't like it. The discussion died on that uncertain note. They traveled downriver, coming ashore just before they reached the lake. They slipped into the crowds, which had gathered as close to the submerged docks as possible. As Kaimali predicted, it seemed like many hopefuls were looking for a way to escape both their hunger and the city. A flotilla of ships from the council was anchored a few dozen meters offshore, and groups of representatives were sorting out the crowd with none too pleased looks. "Let's not get too close," Shawk said. "I don't want to get randomly recruited." Shawk looked around and settled on observing the proceedings from a nearby set of tree roots. Elishnish sat down beside her, intently watching the chaos unfold. "If they're so desperate for warriors," she said, "why not train them?" "I don't think that would ever happen," Shawk replied. "The warrior clans train their own warriors. They only come to the city looking for them if they're needed right away." "Can you make out what the representatives are saying?" "Nothing terribly useful." Elishnish's ears swiveled this way and that. "Mostly complaints about the poor showing." "Uh-oh, some of them are coming this way." A group of Na pushed their way through the crowd, their gazes fastened on Elishnish. "Ugh," Shawk said, "maybe bringing you along was a bad idea. You stick out just by existing." "You there." A young male Na at the head of his fellows called out to her, "Identify yourself." Shawk stepped between them, holding her paws out disarmingly. "Winter Moon is a traveler from the northwest. She and her friends are staying at my home." "And you are?" "Shawk. I live just upriver." "Shawk?" The Na stared at the much shorter Osalo intently. "Would you happen to be acquainted with anyone from Nakira?" The mention of the great clan caused Shawk to visibly tense. "Sort of. I spoke to Eel and Sarge once. They came through the city on their way to the Draconic Kingdom." "I see." The Na visibly brightened. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vogroth Nakira, Eel Sarge's fourth son by his third wife. My esteemed father mentioned you in a correspondence with our clanhold. Something about a promising connection in Khorstorofi Keral. Is that why a messenger came to my place?" "That's right," Vogroth replied. "Since my father took note of you, I figured you were the lord of a clan growing in power nearby. With such a meager selection of combatants from the city, I'm glad we could at least bring on a few good warriors." Elishnish looked on as she observed Shawk's mounting panic. "About that?" Shawk started timidly. "Eel Sarge is right about us in various ways, but we don't have any warriors to spare. The truth is that we're not even an official clan yet, just one that's starting to band together and organize itself. We'd like to join the ranks of the warrior clans, but that's a goal for the distant future." "Is that so?" Vogroth replied in measured tones. "That's unfortunate. Forgive me for my presumption." "It's all right. Could you tell me why the council is recruiting more warriors? Are reinforcements needed in the Draconic Kingdom?" Vogroth looked around before coming a few steps closer. "They aren't for the west," he said in a low voice. "They are for the east. The Yorgulans seized Gaulia and 5 other major fortresses during the deluge." "5?" Shawk gaped at his statement. "But isn't that all of them?" "It is." Vogroth's voice was grim. "The Yorgulan front has collapsed. The Commonwealth has already begun their invasion of Rolengork.